Jacksonville Jaguars and the Kansas City Chiefs. We are recording this early on Friday morning. So this thing is toggling between 8.5 and 9 right now. So I don't know where this will be by the time that you ingest this, but it is 8.5 or 9 right now as we record this, a total of 52.5 or 53. As we know, Kansas City coming off of a bye. Even with that bye week, Mecole Hardman was not able to get back out there for them, and he has been ruled out. On the Jags side of things, I don't have to tell you how that all went with the Jags last week. You are a sports fan. You're watching this. You know how it all went down. So they go on the road here to Kansas City, which I would guess, guys, and, one of the, if not the biggest home field advantages left in the playoffs. I know people are probably going to point to Buffalo, but we know Kansas City, super, super loud. The fans didn't get an opportunity to get to a game last week, so this is going to be their first game in a couple of weeks as well. I expect this Chiefs crowd and stadium to be rocking and rolling out there. Steven, I'll start with you here on this one. It is a Jags team. Despite the miracle comeback last week, I think we all can agree they fall down to this Chiefs team, and it's going to be a different story. Andy Reid and company certainly are not going to do any of the most ridiculous things in the NFL like we saw last week with the Chargers. So Jags are going to have to keep this thing close to start out, or this could be over really, really quick.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. The theme for me with these Saturday games is I can't help kick the feeling that the lines are a little light for the favorites. And we have second half of season matchups between these two teams to go back on and see what the closing lines were. And then we determine how much has really changed between these two teams between now and then. And with the first matchup between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Jacksonville Jaguars, Chiefs won by 10 despite 3 turnovers in the game, despite the Jags getting an onside kick to open the matchup up. And if you look at what the Chiefs did offensively against Jacksonville, they moved the ball at will. The only time they were stopped is when they turned the ball over. 7.8 yards per play for Kansas City, 5.2 for Jacksonville. They win by 10. In my opinion, they should have won that game by more. I was on the Jags in that game to cover 9.5. And, I think the simplistic way to say that the Jags didn't cover is because they missed a couple of field goals. But if you look big picture here with the way that matchup played out, Kansas City really should have won by more in that game. And now you factor in Andy Reid coming off of a bye week, who is a master at getting his teams ready off of a bye week. And I guess I'll leave it to you guys because I really haven't decided how exactly I feel about that Jaguars comeback last week. What should I feel really good about it, or should I feel like they got lucky and won that game? Because I think the fact that this is still 8.5 at some spots as we record this morning sets up for a slam dunk teaser leg for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I am of the opinion that Jacksonville's defense through the second half of the season really was about playing a lot of poor quarterbacks down the stretch.
If we take a look at this, Adam, this Jags team, it's a good story, and I certainly think that they are on the right trajectory, right? I mean, we talked a lot over the last kind of closing weeks of the season of teams that we're maybe looking to target as we enter next year with the win totals that open up with these divisional bets and stuff like that. And certainly the Jags are going to be on my radar. I was talking about how they needed a number one receiver, having completely forgot that they traded for Calvin Ridley, kind of outside out of mind type deal. So he's going to be coming in there to go along with Zay Jones and Christian Kirk. And I think that's a pretty solid wide receiver trio for Trevor Lawrence. But this is a team this season that has trailed by 4 or more points on 51% of the plays since week 10. So, the defense didn't really get that much better. The offense didn't really get that much better over the tail end of the season. It was just, I think, an excellent coaching job by Doug Peterson and company to keep this team in everything and certainly to get them to the playoffs. I think it was a fine story last week of a comeback from 27-0. Certainly, I think it shows the mental resolve of Trevor Lawrence, anyone that was questioning that. I mean, a guy that goes out and just gets absolutely demolished in the first half and able to do what he did in the second half. I think we can get rid of all these concerns about this guy. Certainly the talent is there, but I think the luck runs out this week. I mean, this Chiefs team, I was wrong about We were right about a lot of things this season. I was wrong about it. I thought they would take a step back on the offensive side of the ball. You lose, one of the most explosive, if not the most explosive receiver in all of the NFL, and somehow your offense just continues to chug right along. Andy Reid, just an absolute genius when it comes to all that. And, coming out of a bye here at home, crowd's going to be jacked up, man. They're going to be into it. Fine story for the Jags for me, but I think this is it.
I'm not going to play a side in this game, and it goes back to what Steven talked about with the first game between these teams. So 27-17 final really doesn't tell the story of how it went, but that happened, right? And we can't ignore the fact that that happened the way that it happened. And is it repeatable? Probably not in the fashion that it did happen, but Kansas City was dominant offensively in that game. Patrick Mahomes, 0.55 EPA per play for him. It was one of the better offensive performances we've seen out of Kansas City. Now, we've talked a lot on this podcast about the fact that Kansas City has not covered some large numbers over time. And this is obviously the largest spread of the week. It's only going to get larger from here. I think you're going to hear just about every smart person you listen to, if you're listening to this podcast and others, say Kansas City and Philadelphia in a teaser, right? The numbers make all the sense in the world. I'm not here to tell you otherwise. I agree. I think it makes all the sense in the world. If that's what you want to do, then I think I can wholeheartedly endorse that. This Jacksonville team fell to 3-7 at the time that they lost that game to Kansas City, and they were very fortunate to play a number of teams that were subpar down the stretch. So I don't think my opinion differs a whole lot from you guys, and I won't waste anyone's time with more analysis of a game that I think we all have a pretty firm handle on how we believe it's going to go.
Yeah, I'm on that teaser leg. Again, I'm on the call it the squarest teaser leg on the face of the planet, call it the squarest teaser in the world. Yes, I have Chiefs -2.5, Eagles -1.5 in the account. Already, it was one of the first bets that I made this week. I was afraid that this was going to get away from us. Now, it has started to drift a little bit at some of the books out there, so it is ticking up and toggling between 8.5 and 9, as of course, people start to really get into betting these games in earnest this weekend. So again, if you see the 8.5, just know it's probably going to hit 9 at some point, so you might want to go ahead and jump on it if you do want to make that part of your teaser leg. Guys, one of the things that the Jags have had a lot of trouble with this year is covering the tight end position. As we know, Travis Kelce, the most dominant tight end in all of the NFL, and he has the stats to back it up as to when his utilization is there. Travis Kelce had 31 red zone targets this year. Most of the NFL, I probably don't have to tell you that. And he had 10 red zone touchdowns, also the most in the NFL this year. The Jags linebackers and safeties are just not good at coverage, right? At their singular positions, the linebackers rank 29th, 80th, and 82nd in coverage grade, according to Pro Football Focus. If you go over to the safety position, they rank 35th and 87th. The safety that ranks 35th has only been in 19 coverage snaps all season as it is anyway. So it's not even like that's a job that's ever asked there. So Travis Kelce, I think, is in for a day here. They gave up 9.5 yards per target to tight ends this year, 13 yards per catch to tight ends this year, which was 30th in the NFL. So for me, I really like Kelce pretty much in all facets here. If you want to play him anytime touchdown, 2+ touchdowns, receptions, first touchdown score, however you want to go about it. Like, I think any and all Kelce bets are in play here because it is just a big time mismatch between the guys that might be covering him. And even if he does not get covered man to man here, guys, you guys watch enough football. And if you're listening out there and you're a Chiefs fan, you've watched enough football to know this, but if you don't, like, against zone coverage, Kelce just knows exactly where to. Him and Mahomes have this unbelievable ability where he just knows. He's telling Patrick Mahomes through the back of his helmet, I'm going to go sit down in this zone right here. And it's perfect. They have this perfect chemistry where Kelce just goes and sits down in the zone, takes the pass, gets another 3 or 4 yards and falls down or whatever. I think that this is a huge day for him. And I would not dissuade anybody from betting basically any Kelce prop this week.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that whatsoever, Matt. There's a couple other props I like with the running backs on Kansas City this week. The first is Isaiah Pacheco. If this line in total is telling us the way the game script is going to go, then there's going to be some positive game script for Pacheco, especially in the second half. And I think his rushing yardage total is a little light here. You can find better than minus 110 juice on over 48.5 right now at a couple, at least one book, and worst case 50.5 on some of these other books. 8 of his past 9 weeks, he's gone for more than 50 rushing yards. 7 of his past 9 weeks, he's gone for more than 60 rushing yards. So he is the early down back at this point for the Kansas City Chiefs. The other angle I like is Jerick McKinnon, because it seems like when he's not throwing to Kelsey, unlike some of these other quarterbacks we've seen in the playoffs, Mahomes has no issue with checking it down, and McKinnon has been dynamic in the backfield as a receiver. So this has ticked up a couple of yards since I bet it a couple of days ago, but I still like over 34.5 receiving yards for Jerick McKinnon. He has hit that 3 of his past 5 games, and I think the last week of the season you could probably take out as him not playing his normal amount of snaps. So, I like both of those numbers here. I think they're a little light on the KC backfield.
Adam, I don't want to throw a prop market at you here that you have not properly researched, but do just want to kind of get your opinion on this, because as we only have 4 games, we know people are going to be digging a little bit deeper. We know that people are going to be looking for some more stuff to get into their accounts because there's just fewer games to bet on. They have these weekly specials where it's the player to throw for the most pass yards for the week, right? We know there's only 8 quarterbacks that are left, and you take a look, and I think we can kind of start to eliminate some guys really off the top here. Probably Daniel Jones and Jalen Hurts, because they are going to eliminate themselves just with their rushing yardage, right? I mean, they're going to be running a ton, whatever. Brock Purdy likely not to be that guy again. And Dak Prescott, as good as they were last week, I think against that San Francisco defense, we probably expect at least a little bit of regression here. So now at this point, it becomes between Mahomes, Allen, and Burrow. For me, just because they just don't run very much as it is anyway, I feel like it's between Mahomes and Burrow. Do you have a thought there on who might throw for the most yards this week?
I only would get involved in that market if I didn't think Cincinnati Buffalo was an over, which I do. I think we're going to have a lot of scoring in that Cincinnati Buffalo game, which adds in a decent amount of variance to that. So if you think Cincinnati Buffalo might not be as high of scoring, then sure, get involved with Mahomes, because I don't think there's another clear answer there. But beyond that, I think I would probably pass.
And Steven, I know you're not much of a totals player, and Adam, just a quick thought from you as well, but we get our highest total in quite a while, right? I mean, we haven't, in this era of the NFL, we don't see very many 53s anymore. And so here we are with a 53 in this Jags-Chief game. I'm guessing, given the line, given whatever, that they're baking in some garbage time stuff here for the Jags. They're baking in that the Chiefs are going to get a lead and the Jags are going to be able to kind of do that. I don't think that this is kind of the head-to-head with a 9-point spread. I don't think this is kind of a head-to-head back-and-forth shootout type situation that they're estimating. Steven, 53 on this is fairly interesting. We've passed that 51 threshold, which is that kind of key-ish number, right, when it comes to totals and stuff. So what do you think about a 53 total?
Not interested in the under. I'll say that. Not with what Jacksonville's defense has been, and obviously how elite Kansas City's offense is. It looks like weather's pretty much clear here. Maybe a chance of some snow flurries in Kansas City, but pretty decent weather game for January in the Plains. Kansas City, the Plains? Yeah, sure. Why not?
Why not? Sure.
So, yeah, I'd only be interested in the over here. But when a totals is this high, Matt, I tend to like to just wait and see if they get off to a bit of a slow start and get a discount on the live over, because this is about as high as we've seen all season long when it comes to overs. It's there's been a lot of too high shells with defenses, and it's tough to get there if defenses are going to play that way.
Adam, 53. We've got so what this kind of works out to, given the spread, it puts the Chiefs kind of right at a 30-point implied team total ish, something like that. And the Jags kind of in that 22 and a quarter, 22 and 3/4 and stuff. So, again, we just don't see very many totals this high in today's NFL. So what did you think on this one when you did see the 53?
Under and under for a couple of reasons. First of all, I don't think we think of the Kansas City defense as playing particularly well this year. I think it was bad early and better later. And if you average it out, DVOA has them as the number 17 defense in the league, and that's kind of all they have to be for that offense to hum along and win games for them. But like you said, the score essentially works out to 30-22 in that case, which tells me a couple things. First of all, they're assuming, like you said, that Jacksonville is going to be able to chase a little bit, but they're also assuming that everything goes right for Kansas City, right? Because they look at the last game, as Steven pointed out, 27 points, 3 turnovers, 7.8 yards per play. It has to go that way. Anything less than that, and I think you're probably looking at a game that could very easily land 27-24 and still get you to an under. Now, I'm not saying I think it's going to be 27-24, or else I'd be betting the Jaguars. But I think that I cannot get involved with betting this thing over at 53, not in what the NFL is today.
Yeah, it is going to be fascinating, guys. And as we said, if you are interested in that teaser leg, just shop around a bit. If your book of choice is hanging 9, likely there's an 8.5 out there, at least if you're seeing this anytime soon. But they're going to be toggling for sure. And it looks like it's trending towards 9. So get in on that.